I call the Honourable Member Nikki Wagner.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. This bill, the Resource Management Reform Bill, is part of the Government's two-phase programme of reform of resource management system. Now, Phase 1 involved the simplification and the streamlining of the RMA legislation, which has improved the processing and has been well received by everybody that is using the Act. And this second phase bill deals with the more complex issues, and there will be a further bill later this year. This bill has three parts. Part 1 amends the Resource Management Act, Part 2 amends the Local Government Auckland Transitional Provisions Act, and Part 3 makes minor and technical changes to the Local Government Official Information Act of 1987. Now, in Part 1, we deal with a series of issues concerning RMA legislation, and the two most debated changes were those to Section 32 reports and the tree protection rules. And I want to start by talking about the Section 32 amendments. Now, everybody agrees that it's important to have high-quality analysis underpinning local authority decision-making when it comes to Section 32 reports. And that's because Section 32 reports are the basis of good environmental decision-making. Everybody also agrees that the quality of reports is inconsistent across the country. There are plenty of examples of good reports, but there are even more examples of poor quality reports. And this new legislation will provide greater guidance and greater specificness for councils around specificity around what councils require in Section 32 reports. Now, the main debate focused on how influential the economic impacts of any proposal should be. Those that supported the change saw benefits in providing more rigorous cost-benefit analysis, and those that opposed the change felt it moved the balance of decision-making away from environmental, social and cultural effects and put too much emphasis on economics. There was also concern that the new requirements could increase costs, and this may be the case for councils who are not usually involved in doing comprehensive economic analysis. But we have attempted to mitigate this issue by requiring a level of detail that corresponds to the scale and the significance of the effects, and this was widely supported by submitters. We've also made amendments to require the reports to consider both the positive and the negative effects of economic growth. Now, another issue that was very robustly debated was that of the tree protection rules. Now, the intent of these amendments concerning trees was to reduce the high numbers of resource consents and therefore the high cost to homeowners under the blanket tree protection rules in urban environments. However, the bill does provide for councils to identify notable trees for protection in a schedule to the district plan, either as individuals or as a group of trees. Now, this issue was particularly controversial in Auckland, but this is the type of protection that is used in most cities across New Zealand, and it works successfully in those cities. And I have to give a good example of Christchurch, which does not have blanket tree protection, which is known as the Garden City, which is very green and very leafy, and this works well. However, because of the concern expressed by Auckland citizens, we have made some amendments to make the identification of trees easier. We have clarified that bush areas can be protected and that the definition of a group of trees may include trees within the bush areas, and also that trees on a single block can be identified together even if they aren't officially a cluster or a grove. Now, the key for tree protection is that protected trees must be identified by street address, and there's a good reason for that. That means that the trees and their identification will be noted on the limb, so it is absolutely transparent. Everybody knows which trees are protected and everybody understands the status of those trees going forward. Now, the committee and the officials have worked very hard. Mr. Speaker.
I call the honourable member.
Thank you.
Nikki Wagner.
Oh, Mr. Chair, I beg your pardon. The committee and the officials have worked very hard to try and get a process that would be easily understood and effective, and we believe that the bill is better for this attention to detail. Now, other issues that came up in Part 1 are the new processing timeframes and the direct referral process. Now, the new processing timeframes are to do with resource consent applications that are either notified or limited notification. And these are the consents that include public participation. Now, the bill does not change the tests that determine whether a consent is notified or not. It merely introduces a revised time frame around the ongoing decision-making process, giving more certainty to applicants and to the people involved. Now, these timeframes are 130 working days, approximately 6 months for a notified consent, and 100 working days, approximately 4.5 months for limited notified consents. Now, the new process requires completeness of information before an application can be formally received to improve the quality of decision-making and avoid subsequent delays. There will now only be one opportunity for councils to suspend processing for further information requests. Submitters generally supported the intent of these amendments, and they suggested a variety of improvements to the process, many of which have been incorporated and adopted into the bill. Now, the direct referral process of the bill allows for a direct referral for certain major projects above an investment threshold set out in regulations. Now, some councils were concerned that this would reduce their decision-making roles and responsibilities, and there was uncertainty in the general regulation-making powers. To increase the certainty, we have introduced a criteria that the Minister must have regard to when establishing that investment threshold. Now, the last issue I want to discuss is the collection of environmental monitoring data. The government is keen to improve the state of the nation environmental reporting. Now, presently, local authorities collect a lot of useful environmental information, but that information needs to be standardised and consistent across the country to be useful. This bill proposes regulations to specify what needs to be collected and how. Now, although councils are very aware and they want consistency of data, they were concerned that the regulations may increase costs for them. But this is not the intention, and we've amended the bill to make it clear that any regulations will only be developed in consultation with councils, and the aim is to collect information as efficiently and as effectively as possible. You can only manage what you measure, so we're keen to get really good information so we can manage the environment more effectively. Thank you.
I call the Honourable David Cunliffe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, it's my pleasure to be